الحمد لله رب العالمين إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد وهو على كل شيء قدير وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله الله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه وسراجا منيرا اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وعلى أصحاب سيدنا محمد وعلى أنصار سيدنا محمد وعلى أزواج سيدنا محمد وعلى ذرية سيدنا محمد وسلم تسليما كثيرا. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All acknowledgement and credit, all awareness in fact is due unto the Lord of the universe, our creator, our maintainer, the one who sustains our very lives, the one who continues the breathing in our lungs and the beating of our hearts, and the one who decides upon which moment we will take our last breath. All matters are in His hands. And for the one who has found the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who has achieved that guidance, nothing in the universe could lead that one astray. But for the one who has failed to achieve that direction from Allah, there could be nothing in the universe that would lead him back. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is powerful and capable of all things. And amongst what He is capable of, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen to create you and I. And for this, and for the blessings that He continues to shower down upon us, I say from the bottom of my heart, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. And I also, on this day, in this setting, we collectively bear witness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent down His final prophet and messenger to all of mankind. That man, that incredible individual, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send His peace and His blessings upon our beloved prophet, and to extend that peace and those blessings to his family, his household, to his companions, to his followers. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this day to make us among them in this life and in the next. Allahumma ameen. My brothers and sisters, I greet you with the greeting of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In the chapter of the Quran that is named for Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also makes mention of the descendants of Ibrahim. And particularly He makes mention of one of the greatest of his descendants, and that is Prophet Musa alayhi salam. And He speaks in a few ayat about the mission that Prophet Musa alayhi salam was sent with. And He says, وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا مُوسَى بِآيَاتِنَا وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا مُوسَى بِآيَاتِنَا أَنْ أَخْرَجْ قَوْمَكَ مِنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the mission of Musa alayhi salam, and He says that indeed, certainly, there is absolutely no doubt that we have sent Prophet Musa with our signs, بِآيَاتِنَا, with our miracles. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is actually expressing and explaining the miraculous nature of Prophet Musa's mission. That it wasn't just a political one, but it was indeed a spiritual one. And then he continues, and now it's as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking directly to Musa. أَنْ أَخْرَجْ قَوْمَكَ, that you, O Musa, and you know when the believer, the people of the Quran, when we hear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking to His prophets, we feel it as if He's talking to us. So hear this as if He's talking to you, brothers and sisters. He says, أَنْ أَخْرَجْ قَوْمَكَ مِنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ, that you would deliver your people from the layers of darkness, ظُلُمَات, the layers of darkness, not just ظُلُم, إِلَى النُّورِ, into light. That you would deliver your people from the layers of oppression into salvation. From these ayat, brothers and sisters, we assess two very relevant and important matters. The first of them is that those signs, the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those miracles, the primary audience of those miracles is not Pharaoh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not trying to impress Pharaoh. He has no need. The primary audience of those miracles is not the people of Egypt, so that they would change their minds or change their faith. If that is a consequence of the miracles, fine. But the primary audience for the miracles that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent with Prophet Musa is Bani Israel. It is the people of Prophet Musa. The people that he is supposed to deliver. And this brings us to the second thing that we derive from these ayat, from this ayat. And that is that the purpose of these ayat, the purpose of these miracles, and the miraculous nature of Prophet Musa's mission was not only about physical deliverance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not say that you would take your people from Egypt to Canaan. That's not what He said. He said, مِنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ. And the layers of oppression, within those layers, certainly the first layer, the most obvious one, is that physical oppression. But perhaps the most important layer of oppression that must be peeled away is the layer of spiritual oppression. For if you are able to oppress somebody, may Allah protect us from being oppressors. But if you are capable and successful in oppressing somebody physically, then you may have defeated him for one day. But tomorrow he will fight you again. And if you defeat him again and again, he will pass on. If there is any will and faith in his heart, he will pass that fight to his children, and his children will fight you and overcome you. That is the case. That is the evidence we find in history. But my brothers and sisters, if somebody is able to oppress another spiritually, if someone is able to strip away their faith, to tear away from them the very essence of their own souls, then they may have oppressed someone for generations to come. And this too is evidenced in history. We can look at the history of the United States, here in the Americas, when slave ships brought slaves from Africa all the way to the eastern coast of the United States and of the colonies at the time. One of the most important things that the slave masters would do is to strip the people of their faith and to force them to adopt the religion of the oppressor. Many of those slaves, by the way, were Muslim. The numbers fluctuate. But this was a threat to the slave masters. And they banned the practice of any other faith. And they got really detailed about it. They banned even the passing along of languages. The only language you were allowed to speak was English. Why? Why are they banning? Because they're afraid of alif, ba, ta. They're afraid of alif, ba, ta. They're afraid of Arabic. They're afraid of these educated Muslims spreading their ideas and fighting for their freedoms. They stripped the faith of these people. We see this in our history as well, my brothers and sisters. And The reason I'm mentioning all of this is because what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the second part of these ayat. He says, وَذَكِّرْهُمْ بِأَيَّامِ اللَّهِ وَذَكِّرْهُمْ, and remind them, بِأَيَّامِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِكُلِّ صَبَّارٍ شَكُورٍ. For in that remembrance, there is signs, there is miracles for those who are consistently persevering and consistently grateful. This second part of the ayah requires a ton of analysis. And perhaps we don't have the time. So instead, allow me to take an aside to share with you a story in order to really unpack what we're trying to understand here today. This story, my brothers and sisters, is about an individual, someone in the Muslim community, a kind person, a generous person, one who generally considers himself to be practicing of the faith. Now, this individual is planning to go on a trip. And it's not just a trip. When you ask him about it, he'll tell you it's the journey of a lifetime. It is the greatest adventure that he will ever take. And he'll tell you about the destination. He'll say that those shores, those beaches, that place, it is the most beautiful place that you could ever imagine. It'll put Hawaii and New Zealand to shame. And it's not just the destination that's special. The journey is special. You see, because he'll tell you that this 4-week-long cruise that he'll take to get to that destination, oh, it's the most incredible journey you'll ever experience. It's the most beautiful trip you'll ever experience. Forget Emirates. Forget first class. The things that you'll see on this cruise. And the amenities that will be there for you, the food that will be available, and the sights, and the place to rest your head at night, and the way in which people interact with each other, it'll be amazing. And as if the destination and the journey itself are not enough, this individual explains to you that as if the destination and the journey are not enough, the most beautiful part of this is that you'll be going with all of your loved ones. That not just your family, your friends, people you see at the masjid, people you sit next to during Jum'ah, people you pray with, people you work with, people you know and love, your entire community will be taking this very special trip together. Now there's a problem here. You see the journey and the destination, all of this is beautiful. But this individual, he has a bad habit. And that is that he procrastinates. He puts things off. And he ends up putting off the buying of the ticket. And then one day he says, you know what? This journey I'm planning on taking, it's actually pretty soon. So I should probably go and purchase my ticket. And he goes on the website. And there on the website are in bold red letters the words that he never thought he would see. But they shattered his universe. Sold out. Sold out. And he starts to panic. And he calls friends and family members, and all of them are like, what do you mean? You didn't buy your ticket yet? Yeah, I didn't know it was going to be sold out. I didn't know there was a limit. Go get your ticket. Do something. So in his panic, he calls contact us on the website. He calls them, and he gets transferred from person to person. Each of them telling him, listen, I can't help you. I can't just take someone else's ticket and give it to you. That's not fair. Until finally he gets transferred to someone who says, okay, fine, listen, I have an idea. We have an extra bed in the crew space, the very bottom of the ship. It's not nice, it doesn't smell good, it's disgusting. It's just an extra space in case one of our crew members, needs a different space to sleep. We can sell you that. You'll still get the food and you'll still get the company and all of that, but your sleeping position and condition will not be very nice. The man says, listen, just take my money, charge me a late fee, do whatever you have to do, but get me on that cruise. So he's good. But then he continues to procrastinate. And in his procrastination, he waits until the last day, the day before the cruise, to pack. And now he's, I should pack. And so he starts pulling things out from his closet and starts to realize that more than half of what he planned to take doesn't even fit. It won't fit him. And again, he starts to panic. He rushes to the store and buys things, nothing's on sale because he's in a panic, right? Everything at full price. Gets enough stuff, packs his bags, and finishes in the middle of the night and says, you know what, I'm good. Alhamdulillah. And he sets his alarm. But because he was up so late at night packing, he wakes up late in the morning. He's supposed to be out of the house by 6, and it's 7:10, and he runs to the car, grabbing his suitcase, and just gets on the freeway as fast as he can, praying Ayatul Kursi after Ayatul Kursi that no police officer will stop him. And he gets to the spot, he gets to the check-in window, and there he sees it says that no more check-ins will be taking place. And he starts to beg the woman at the stand, please, for the love of God, I've been planning for this for so long. Let me in, let me on. All of my loved ones are there. I'm the one that told most of them. And finally, the lady at the check-in window, she takes pity and she says, you know what, fine. Okay, let's go. Sir, please put your bag here. And so she weighs the bag. Sir, this is way overweight. Okay, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Sir, please give me your ticket. Okay, thank you. Sir, please give me your passport. Passport? I need a passport to get on a cruise? Yes, sir, you need a passport. And there he stands, in another state of panic, having again and again created obstacles for him to enjoy and be on that journey that he continuously talks about. Brothers and sisters, this story is both remarkable and familiar. And the reason it's familiar is because this is the story of you and I. That passenger, that traveler, that's us. Very often, we plan, but we don't take action on those plans. And that destination, that place that everyone wants to be, that is the shores of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rida, His happiness and contentment. Those are the shores of Allah's maghfirah, His forgiveness and forbearance. Indeed, those are the shores of Allah's salvation that each and every one of us desires so desperately. And the cruise, this 4-week journey, is Ramadan. Right? That's how we get there. Yet we continue to create obstacles for us to get on the cruise properly. We continue to get in our own ways. Now, I understand, brothers and sisters, that there are imams and khatibs in masajid across the world today talking to their community members about a very important topic, and that is to prepare for Ramadan. But I'm also aware that last week that was brought up. And today I'm actually interested in something a little bit different. It is important to prepare for Ramadan. And today will prepare us a little bit. But you know that the companions, they used to prepare for months in advance. There are reports that suggest that in the 5 or 6 months leading up to Ramadan, they would be preparing. And in the 5 or 6 months that came after Ramadan, they would be praying to Allah that Allah would accept it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring us to Ramadan and accept it after we arrive. Ameen. And the Prophet ﷺ also used to be in a state of preparation for the month of Ramadan. He was very focused and keen on this. There's a lot of narrations, but today I'm actually interested in one particular dua that he used to make often, and you can find this in the various sources of hadith, that really give us some interesting insight into how the Prophet ﷺ would prepare for Ramadan. Because there's so much you can do. Can we take one thing? And it comes to us in this particular dua. The Prophet ﷺ used to say, Allahumma barik lana fi Rajab wa Sha'ban wa ballighna Ramadan. Again, and memorize this dua, it's so short. Allahumma barik lana fi Rajab wa Sha'ban wa ballighna Ramadan. That's simple. Oh Allah, oh Lord, bless us, shower us with your barakah in Rajab and Sha'ban, and then deliver us to Ramadan. You see, brothers and sisters, when the Prophet ﷺ says وَبَلِّغْنَا Ramadan here, this wow, it's in Arabic we call it wow al-hal. It is the conditional wow. As if the condition of being delivered to Ramadan is dependent upon being blessed in Rajab and Sha'ban. And here we are today in the days of Rajab. Here we are today with the opportunity for that blessing. You see, there's a problem with the way that we approach Ramadan. And it has actually not much to do with Ramadan itself, but the way we treat the other months. We think that in Ramadan, some amazing thing will happen and our lives will turn around. And today I want to tell you that actually the amazing thing, that life-changing moment, for most people needs to happen before Ramadan. In fact, it needs to happen in the month of Rajab. In these days, today and in these coming weeks. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us that opportunity. So what is it about Rajab particularly? And that's what I want to focus on. What is it about Rajab? The Prophet ﷺ, he explains, by the way, there's so many holy months, and three of them, ثَلَاثَةٌ مُتَوَالِيَاتٌ, right? He says the months of Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, and Muharram. Those three are sacred, right? And what's the fourth month that is sacred? It's Rajab. He doesn't say Ramadan, he says Rajab. So I understand why those first three are sacred. It's about Hajj, and about traveling. And there's no fighting, there's no violence allowed in those months. And so people are safe to travel to Hajj and safe to travel back. But then why is Rajab also sacred? Why is it protected and holy? Why did the Prophet ﷺ refer to it? Well, the first clue comes to us with the way he actually used to mention the month. He used to say, وَرَجَبُ مُضَرٍ, the Rajab of the month of the people of Mudar. الَّذِي بَيْنَ جُمَادَ وَشَعْبَانَ. So he's saying the Rajab of Mudar, the one that comes between Jumada and Sha'ban. It's like as if I told you, that thing, it's going to happen in June. The June of Canada. The June of Canada, that happens between May and July. And you would look at me like, what? Why are you giving me these details about June? We all know when June happens. And the reason is because there were tribes, the Arab tribes, when they were engaged in fighting and conflict, they would actually switch the month of Rajab because they're not allowed to fight in it. So they would just swap it and say, okay, actually, now it's Sha'ban and Rajab will be later. Except for one tribe. That was the tribe, the people of Mudar. And they were so adherent to this practice. And just to explain the adherence to this practice, I'll share with you one particular story that comes to us from a companion who converted fairly late in the days of the Prophet ﷺ. His name was Abu Rajab. And he was from the tribe of Mudar. And Abu Rajab explains, in the days of Jahiliyyah, we used to be so foolish. We were strange people. Without any reasoning or thought, we would worship stones. Not thinking that these stones represented some other deity. No, we just found the stones and we just worshipped them. And then, if we found a nicer stone, we would grab it and discard the old stone and we would worship that stone. And then, if we found another nicer one, we would replace it again. That was the kind of foolishness we had. But when it came to the month of Rajab, we would get together on the first day of Rajab and we would bring our arrows and we would remove the iron tips. And we would bring our spears and we would remove the iron spearheads. And we would put them away somewhere, store away our weapons. This had two effects. The first, if you put your weapons away, you're far less likely to be the aggressor. Right? You're far less likely to attack somebody. You're far less likely to engage in violence because you don't have weapons. Right? You've created an obstacle for yourself. The second, and I think this is so important and so relevant for us today, brothers and sisters, is that it also prevents others from fighting you. The people of Mudar, when they put their weapons away, the other tribes, even if they hated the people of Mudar, instead of saying, oh, here's an opportunity, we're going to get them, they would say it would be so dishonorable. It would be so disgusting for us to attack these people while they are unarmed. For us to go after these people and they're in a state of peace. It would be dishonorable, brothers and sisters. Just a couple notes here that, number one, the Prophet ﷺ calls it Rajab Mudar, and Mudar, these are people of Jahiliyyah. And who is he teaching? He's teaching the companions, right? The Prophet ﷺ is saying that the people, the companions of the Prophet ﷺ have something to learn from the Arabs of Jahiliyyah. And this is important for us because we, as Muslims, the modern Muslim, pretends like we have nothing to learn from anybody who's not Muslim. If you're not Muslim, I'm not interested. Don't tell me. You're Muslim? Okay, what do you have to say? Oh, but I'm sorry, you're Shafi'i and I'm Hanafi. Oh, I can't hear you. Right? This is the mindset we have. And here the Prophet ﷺ is instructing the companions using the model of the Arabs of Jahiliyyah. And the second thing is something that has become so lost, but perhaps would be so beneficial in our current context, in the current political climate. The people used to live by a code of honor. That if somebody else was unarmed, how dare I even consider to challenge that person? If somebody else is weaponless, who am I to strike at them? Even if they are an adversary, even if I want their blood, if they are unarmed, there's no place for violence here. And if anybody were to engage in violence, he would be written down in the chapters of history as a dishonorable, disgusting human being. What happened to our code of honor? What happened to that sense in our people? Today, when you tell people, by the way, that individual, that brother, by the way, who was a Muslim, Stefan Clark, was unarmed, the Muslim will tell you, well, he shouldn't have run. Excuse me? What happened to our code of honor? What happened to that way that we used to live? That thing that was adopted from Rasulullah ﷺ for the companions? Do we think that we're better than this? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala restore our sense of honor, brothers and sisters. In the month of Rajab, there's something special that makes this month holy. There's something unique. It is the spiritual awakening that is possible during this month. And I give you two pieces of evidence for that. Number one, the first thing that happened in the month of Rajab that is so famous is Isra al-Miraj. Imagine yourself to be a companion living with the Prophet ﷺ. So you're there, and you're hearing them, you're in Mecca. It's the early days of Islam. And then one day he gathers everyone together. He says, there's an emergency meeting. Everyone come. Everyone's there. 20, 30 Muslims, 40 Muslims maybe. It's actually close to 70 at this point. Everyone is there. And he says, listen, last night I went from the Kaaba, I traveled all the way to Masjid al-Aqsa. And that's not it. From there I traveled all the way into the heavens. And from there I traveled to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there I spoke with my Lord. We had a conversation. If you're not awake at this moment, brothers and sisters, as a Muslim, you are suddenly awake now. You spoke to Allah. Yes, the Prophet ﷺ spoke to Allah, and I brought something back for you. Are you interested? Are you excited? What did he bring back? He brought back salah, the 5 daily prayers. You see, it's not just that we pray, but it's that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us this prayer as a spiritual awakening, as a way to shock our hearts into life. That's what salah is supposed to be doing for us. And a good measure of whether your heart is alive or not is if you feel bad, if you feel sorrow that somebody died when he or she shouldn't have died. And if that person died at the hands of those institutions that are supposed to be protecting us, your heart should feel terrible. It should bleed. And if not, then start working on your salah, because it's not waking you up. And the second thing that happens in the month of Rajab, that also is a moment of spiritual awakening, a moment of spiritual revival, resurrection in fact, is that during the prayer in Medina, so the Prophet ﷺ is leading prayer and all the companions are standing behind him. Again, imagine yourself there. And then all of a sudden you hear him reciting ayat that you've never heard before. And in the ayat you hear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say to turn your face, to change your qibla from Masjid al-Aqsa to go all the way around and face the Kaaba. And then if that's not enough, the Prophet ﷺ in the middle of prayer, imagine the Imam starts walking. The Prophet ﷺ starts walking in the middle of prayer. And he walks all the way around to the back side where everyone is standing and faces the opposite direction, and everyone turns and faces the Kaaba. if you were not aware of your salah, if you did not have khushu' until that moment, now you have khushu'. It's all about spiritual revival, spiritual resurrection, and it needs to happen in this month. It needs to happen in the month of Rajab. What is the key? Inshallah, I'll share that with you in the second khutbah. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us amongst those who experience that spiritual resurrection. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us amongst those who are able to take advantage of these days of Allah. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us amongst those who are capable of feeling what we need to feel in our hearts that remind us of our faith. Brothers and sisters, raise your hands and seek from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if there is no bearer. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. My dear brothers and sisters, today we started off with a conversation on the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the mission of Prophet Musa alayhi salam. And I gave you the first portion of the ayah, and I held from you the second portion of the ayah, so let me share that with you now, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, after talking about the miracles that were sent to Musa to have spiritual awakening, have spiritual revival and resurrection for Bani Israel, to free them from their spiritual enslavement, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and this applies to all of mankind that read the Quran, وَذَكِّرْهُمْ بِأَيَّامِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِكُلِّ صَبَّارٍ شَكُورٍ. Again, remind them with the days of Allah that indeed in that remembrance there is a sign, or there are miracles for those people who are described with two qualities. For every single individual who is both persevering or struggling and grateful. Persevering and grateful. Consider this, brothers and sisters. The way that this ayah is explained, the way this ayah is stated, it's as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that in the days of Allah, in ayyamillah, there are miracles for people across time. For you and I today, there is an opportunity for miracle. And what would that miracle be? It would be the same miracle that Bani Israel needed. That exit, that deliverance, min al-dhulumat ila nur. That spiritual revival and awakening. That spiritual resurrection that we need so badly. And what better time than in ayyamillah, the days that Allah appoints for Himself, like the month of Rajab. This month is yours and it's my opportunity for spiritual revival and resurrection. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give that to us. And you know, the month of Rajab, it's described in so many interesting ways. One of the great teachers of Islam, Abu Bakr al-Balkhi, he says, Shahru Rajab, Shahru Zira'. Rajab is the month of planting seeds. Wa Sha'banu Shahru Suqi. Sha'ban is the month of watering those seeds. Wa Ramadan Shahru Hisad. Ramadan is when you take the harvest. Certainly we are in the mindset of preparing for Ramadan. But this description of Rajab is what I'm interested in today. Shahru Rajab, Shahru Zira'. The month of planting. And I'm reminded of another hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he says, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if in your hand is a sapling, a small tree, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala causes the day of judgment to fall upon you. The day of judgment is here, and here in your hand is a tree. The day upon which those who have been buried for thousands of years will rise up again. The day upon which the heat will be so blistering and the only shade will be Allah's. The day to end all days, after which the universe will cease to exist. The Prophet ﷺ says, if that day comes upon you and there is a tree in your hand, plant it. Plant it. That tree will never bear fruit. That tree will never grow. It will never give shade. That tree will never go through the seasons and its leaves turning green to orange. That tree will never produce an ounce of oxygen for anybody. Yet the Prophet Prophet ﷺ says, plant it. And for me, today, that tree is the month of Rajab. You see, we don't really know if we're going to make it to Ramadan. Yeah, it's weeks away. Yeah, we're preparing. All the samosas are getting ready and, you're stockpiling on rufza. I get it. But this could be our last day. Allahumma balighna Ramadan, ameen. But we don't know if Allah will bring us to Ramadan. Remember that there was a Ramadan that even the Prophet ﷺ was not brought to. What guarantee do you and I have that this Ramadan will be ours? My brothers and sisters, in the month of Rajab, plant the seed, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless you in the days of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with spiritual revival, whether we reach Ramadan or not, and I pray that we do. And finally, my brothers and sisters, on a slightly separate note, but one that is definitely, I think, related in many ways. I made slight mention of the brother who was shot and murdered a few days ago at the hands of police, Stefan Clark. And by the way, it's really disturbing to me that, when I talk to some people in the community, I can't say it's everybody, some people, really, in the community and not. But when I mention, all the facts, they're not really that interested. But then when I say, by the way, he was Muslim, suddenly the look on their faces changed. Oh, what? Yeah, yes, we had janazah for the brother yesterday. SubhanAllah, he was Muslim. Yeah, like Muslim? Yes, like Muslim. Is this a question? The reason I'm upset by this mindset is that it reminds me that we don't care, or some people, I should say, don't care until the person is Muslim. And indeed, that is a clear sign that we're not really interested in justice. And we should be. We need to be. That is a requirement upon us by our deen. We are required to stand up for justice in the verses of the Quran. But we're not interested until all of a sudden there's some kind of connection to the person. It's not right. And, I know it's becoming a political situation. I know there's a lot of differences of opinion on this matter, and there's a lot of nuances. And we should not pretend like there are not a lot of nuances. We should have complex opinions about this matter. But here's the one thing that I think we continue to fail to do. I think in these situations we fail to ask ourselves, how would the Prophet ﷺ respond? How would he view this situation? What would be his guidance and wisdom? We are so interested in what that famous person on Facebook says, and what that politician says, and what friends say. Oh, he's popular, she's popular, what do they say? I should just say that. Sometimes we're just so motivated by self-interest. Brothers and sisters, in these days we need to ask ourselves, what would the Prophet ﷺ say? What would the Prophet ﷺ do? And if we don't have a connection to Rasulullah that guides us to that, then we need to work on that connection. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the wisdom to act in these times. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the guidance to know what to do. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the strength of faith that we would not only take action in our small circles, but that we would stop injustice with our hands. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us the people who bring goodness to those around us. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us empathetic and loving towards all of His creation in the way that His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma hdina fi man hadayt. Allahumma aafina fi man afayt. Allahumma tawallana fi man tawallayt. Allahumma ighfir lil mu'minina wal mu'minat wal muslimina wal muslimat al ahya'i minhum wal amwat. Innaka sami'un qareebun mujibud da'awat. Brothers and sisters, let's stand for prayer.